Welcome to Auto Mundial, the weekly car news and review show where this week we're taking a look at Kia's most stylish electric car, the Soul EV.
Plus, we have an MPV from Mercedes, as well as a JCW-tuned MINI Clubman.
Plus the latest version of the Porsche Macan, the GTS. That is all coming up, but first...
Mitsubishi has confirmed that it will continue to sell cars in Europe in 2023, following an announcement in July last year that it was pulling out of the market. As part of the Renault-Nissan alliance, the Japanese brand will return to European soil with new models, including Renault sister cars. While the decision will be welcomed by many across the continent, Mitsubishi has said it won't be returning to the UK, with the company still moving towards becoming an after-sales service by the end of 2021. And there are no plans to bring any new cars like the recently revealed Outlander here anytime soon.
Multi-purpose vehicles, or MPVs, were once all the rage. Before, every manufacturer had half a dozen SUVs in their lineups. MPVs offered extra space for passengers and their luggage on the same footprint as a family hatchback. These days, though, MPVs are few and far between, but niche-filling Mercedes still offers this, the B-Class. Now in its third generation, Mercedes has quietly been keeping the tall hatchback market alive, having sold 1.5 million of them since the original car was launched in 2005. And while it's still designed to be as practical as a compact car can be, unlike a Renault Scenic or Volkswagen Golf SV, it features all the luxuries and gadgets one expects from a Mercedes. Based on the popular A-Class, the B is available with all of the expensive options and technology you can get on its sister car. Basic models come with a pair of 7-inch screens. They're bright and sharp and include navigation and voice control. If you're willing to splash out a bit though, you can get a beautiful pair of bigger screens stretching across the top of the dash. Be warned though, while they might look great, they are quite distracting. Elsewhere in the cabin, everything is typically Mercedes. The materials on display are first class with excellent fit and finish and an ultra-modern look. It's very similar to the A-Class's interior, but you sit higher and the driving position isn't as comfortable. This, though, is a car for carrying passengers, so rear bench space is a priority. Thankfully, there's acres of space for those in the back. The tall roofline means headroom is excellent and there's plenty of legroom too. Boot space is decent and a lot better than many crossover SUVs we've seen. There's a wide range of petrol and diesel engines to choose from, with a highlight being the B250's 2-litre petrol, which can do 0 to 62 in just 6.4 seconds and onto 155 miles per hour. Then there's the frugal diesel B220D, which offers a great blend of economy and performance, with its 187 brake horsepower allowing for a 7.2 second 0 to 62 time. Crucially though, its CO2 figures are incredible for a diesel MPV, ensuring it's a future-proof car. Whichever engine you choose though, the B-Class remains a quiet, refined way to travel. Power delivery throughout the range is smooth, although the smaller diesel engines do feel sluggish. It rides nicely though, especially around town where the B-Class begins to feel more like an S-Class limo. It's very impressive, but it isn't a car that'll deliver any sort of thrill on a good road. Push on and you'll be greeted with plenty of understeer and an all-round lackluster driving experience.
But how does its main rival get on, the BMW 2 Series Active Tourer? Not to be confused with the Grand Tourer, the Active is BMW's first foray into the MPV market. Aimed squarely at the B-Class, the BMW is another premium choice in a market traditionally dominated by cheaper brands. Like the Mercedes, it features a fantastic interior with a bewildering array of tech and gorgeous leather and trim finishes. And while it handles much more predictably than the B-Class, its front-wheel drive layout means it isn't even close to delivering the typical BMW driving experience. Buyers in this segment, though, care more about practicality, and that is where the BMW lets itself down. Both luggage capacity and interior space are worse than the Mercedes, with not much more versatility than a regular hatchback or crossover.
And it's for that reason that the B-Class takes the win. It seems like quite a lowly segment of the market now, but with the best B-Class yet, Mercedes could continue to quietly sell them in their millions.
After the break, the MINI Clubman JCW and new releases from Kia and Porsche. Coming up, the MINI Clubman John Cooper Works and the Macan GTS. But first,
over the last few years, we've seen pretty much every mainstream manufacturer slowly make strides into the electric car market. Tesla kicked off the trend, and now everyone from Peugeot to Porsche is getting on board. But for Kia, electric cars are nothing new. Their first was the Kia Ray EV, launched in 2013 and developed exclusively for the South Korean market. Then, in 2014, the rest of the world got its first taste of Kia electrification, the electric version of its subcompact crossover, the Soul. Coined the Soul EV, it was based on the petrol-powered version. With a range of just 93 miles, it quickly got outdated. Even the introduction of an uprated battery for 2018 models meant the range was still way below its rivals. It was definitely due an upgrade. Which thankfully it now has with this, the 2021 Kia Soul EV. Now, while petrol models will still make their way to the States, in Europe you won't find a petrol or diesel Soul in the showroom. A bold move, but Kia is confident in its EV technology. It's powered by a 64 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery that it shares with the e-Niro and Hyundai Kona Electric, which is good enough for an impressive range of 280 miles. The power also gets a boost up to 201 bhp from 109, and the 0 to 60 time has been slashed by the best part of 2 seconds. The entry-level price is also comparable with that of the Mini Electric or Nissan Leaf, with the Titan model the cheapest available. However, in some markets, the all-guns blazing first edition is the sole offering in the showroom and almost a third more expensive. This model does come with a lot of extra equipment though, and of course all specs come with Kia's 7-year warranty. It's quick to charge too, with a 100 kilowatt charger getting it to 80% from empty in under an hour. The Soul has always been Kia's quirkiest offering, and the new version is no different, with its new long and thin headlight design, but it still retains its boxy look. Also new is the boomerang-shaped rear lights, which, along with a black painted strip, surround the rear window, and we think it actually looks quite good. Inside, the Soul is very spacious, which is unsurprising given its cuboid shape, but the boot is a little bit of a letdown. With just over 300 litres of space, it has a smaller compartment than the Polo.
that puts it more in line with a hatchback than an SUV then. So, how does it compare to its rivals? This is the stylish new Mini Electric. Like any Mini, it's a fun-looking car, but side by side with the Kia Soul, the Mini is certainly the more conservative option. If spec'd correctly, it looks near enough identical to a regular petrol Mini, something that's sure to appeal to many buyers. But against the Soul EV, it falls down hugely on range. At 145 miles, it's half that of the Soul. And for buyers looking to commute or travel long distances, this could be a deal breaker. So what about the classic alternative, the Nissan Leaf? A new inverter in the latest model bumped the power up to 150 brake horsepower and plunged 0 to 60 under 8 seconds. More BHP than the Soul EV then, but similar acceleration. Again though, the Nissan loses out on its range of just 168 miles. This would have been a class leader a few years ago, but now it's slipping down the pile.
So while the Nissan was the go-to option in the affordable EV class not too long ago, the Kia may have just stolen its crown. It's modern, well-built, and its range makes it far more usable than the Nissan. And like its sister cars, the e-Niro and Hyundai Kona Electric, it has blown the Leaf away. The future of electric cars appears to be fully charged.
When cars get their midlife facelift, they often receive a minimal boost in power to try and convince existing owners to upgrade. Typically, the results are barely noticeable, with styling tweaks grabbing headlines. The latest MINI Clubman John Cooper works, however, is a little different. While it looks largely the same as the old version, power and torque have been increased by almost a third. While the old car made do with a paltry 228 brake horsepower, this new car gets a whopping 302, making it the most powerful road-going Mini ever made.
That big lump of horsepower comes courtesy of its new engine, the turbocharged 2-litre from the new BMW M135i. Unsurprisingly, the little all-wheel drive estate is now faster. A lot faster. 0 to 62 has been dropped by 1.4 seconds, meaning the Mini can now do the sprint in just under 5 seconds. That means it finally has the pace to keep up with the hot hatch elite like the VW Golf R, Audi S3, and even the new Mercedes A35. And so it should, with prices not far off its German competition. The rest of the facelift consists of the typical updates, including new front and rear lights, slightly different bumpers, and an updated infotainment system. It's a previous gen BMW unit tarted up with some mini aesthetics that make it a little tricky to navigate. Like the rest of the cabin though, it looks cool, and that has always been a priority for BMW's fun British brand. The rest of the interior is standard Mini, meaning it's very nicely trimmed, if a little over the top, with its central circular screen housing and plenty of Union Jack styling details. As with any Clubman, the cabin space is disappointingly average. While it may wear a Mini badge, this is far from being a truly small car, and as a result, the cramped rear seats and underwhelming boot may come as a surprise. The weird rear doors in place of a hatch are a pain too, needing lots of clearance behind you to open fully and making loading and unloading a chore. The resulting split rear window also reduces visibility. However, while these may be concerns for buyers of lesser Clubmans, JCW customers are unlikely to really care. Being the fastest Mini currently on sale, buyers will choose this in spite of its supposed practicality. Quite rightly, they'll be more concerned with what it's like to drive.
Well, as we mentioned, this isn't just a longer JCW hatch, but an all-wheel drive Golf R rival. So what's a 4x4 Mini like on the road? Well, despite the power increase, the chassis has received only minor tweaks. Work has been done to improve the bone-shatteringly firm ride of the old car with some revised dampers and some optional suspension modes. It's a vast improvement for the ride quality, allowing you to concentrate on its curious handling. The steering is lightning quick, meaning progress tends to become somewhat staccato, sometimes making it a bit tricky to get into a smooth flow. There's a shed load of grip though, thanks in part to its sticky Michelin rubber, but mainly thanks to the all-wheel drive system. It leaves no room for any sideways heroism, but it does make the funky little Mini feel very grown up. But in a world of grown-up hot hatchbacks, shouldn't a JCW be a bit more cheeky? A bit more of a hooligan? Well, it's undeniably rapid. It's limited to 155 miles per hour, just like the Hot Hatch Elite, and it sounds great too. There is some artificial noise pumped in through the speakers though, but if any car can get away with that, surely it's a Mini.
The JCW then has matured. It's up there with the Golf R and S3, but despite its retro styling and cool Britannia image, it seems to have lost its playful charm. An impressive machine, make no mistake, but one that's lacking in character.
Since the success of the original Porsche Cayenne in the early 2000s, we've been getting used to SUVs blurring the boundaries between utility vehicle and sports car. And while Porsche may have started the trend, countless premium manufacturers are cashing in. But now Porsche is returning fire with this, the Macan GTS. Sitting in between the Macan S and the Turbo, the GTS offers something a little different to either of them. It may not be as powerful as the flagship Turbo model, but with lower suspension and an all-round more aggressive chassis setup, it is the most driver-focused. It comes as standard with Porsche's active suspension management system, which responds to road conditions and sets up the car differently depending on your selected driving mode. Under the bonnet lies the same 2.9-litre twin-turbo V6 you find in the Turbo, this time down-tuned to 375 brake horsepower, an increase of 15 from its predecessor. 0 to 62 miles per hour takes just 4.7, while top speed is 162. Not bad for a 2-ton SUV. Better yet, it'll get from 0 to 100 in under 12 seconds. It still uses the familiar 7-speed PDK gearbox, but this time it's been tuned to deliver faster shifts in Sport Plus mode and smoother ones in normal. These driving modes are selected via a handy switch on the steering wheel, with each option gradually sharpening up the GTS as you work your way up. You may be thinking though, what's the point of lowering an SUV and aiming it at keen drivers? And on the face of it, it does seem a little silly. However, sporty Macans have always felt like chunky hot hatchbacks, thanks to their relatively small size and Porsche's sorcery when it comes to making big 4x4s handle like sports cars. To distinguish the GTS from lesser versions, it gets some bespoke styling details. The front features are characterized by black painted elements, while the brake calipers complete the sporty look. It's also available with 20-inch alloys with the same design as those on a 718 Spider. The interior has also been given some attention. Loads of Alcantara and more black detailing. All these extra bits coupled to the almost obnoxious exhaust make it much more of a head-turner than the somewhat more discreet Turbo. As is common on Porsches, it gets the aesthetically messy but somehow satisfying rows of many buttons either side of the center console. Not the neatest solution, but easier than sorting your way through a complicated infotainment system. Speaking of which, the system in the Macan is first class, with the crispest graphics this side of a 4K TV.
However, the Macan GTS isn't the only fast SUV in this corner of the market. This is the Audi SQ5 TDI, and it does things a little differently. As the name suggests, it uses a diesel engine rather than a petrol V6, but don't go thinking this is some glammed up canal boat. It can hit 62 from rest in 5.1 seconds, onto an electronically limited top speed of 155. This surprising turn of speed comes courtesy of a turbocharged 3-litre engine, churning out 342 brake horsepower and a monumental 700 Newton-meters of torque. It certainly has the S in SUV covered then, and it gets better. To back up the TDI's more frugal image, it makes use of Audi's 48-volt mild hybrid system, not something we'd usually associate with a fast 4x4. The Q5 base is also more practical than the Porsche, and just as well equipped and trimmed. However, the diesel soundtrack is unlikely to win favour with many petrol heads, leaving the sharp, focused Macan as the current class favourite.
It's far from the fastest SUV on the market, with options like the Alfa Stelvio Quadrifoglio and Jaguar F-Pace SVR turning things up to 11. But for the money, nothing comes close to the compact Porsche.
Join us again next week on Auto Mundial as we check out Jeep's new V8 Bronco rival, the Rubicon 392.